Saints, Eagles. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. So first we can do the picks real quick. We got the Saints favored by 8 on the road and an over/under set at 43. So this is actually going to be similar to the Seahawks Jets video, where this is going to be more of a warning than necessarily a green light to make a bet on this game. I do think that the Saints money line is pretty safe, but not a guarantee to the point where it has value. And I'm actually going to be very lightly on the side of the Eagles +8 at home, as well as the over. By now, neither of them are things that I would put any real amount of money on, but I do think that there's a chance that those come through. Again, though, nothing really worth betting on in this game. But stick around; I'll tell you how and why. That's how it go down. So first, we got the Saints offense versus the Eagles defense. Now, injury wise, nothing important on the Saints offense. On the Eagles, there is a bit of an important one, which is T.J. Edwards, starting middle linebacker. He's like pretty mediocre himself, but he is by far the best linebacker in the Eagles. And without him playing, there's a chance that goes pretty bad. Now, I'm not positive about it, but there's a chance it goes bad. So you talk about offensive line versus defensive line. So the Saints' offensive line still pretty good, for sure, even without Teron Armstead still. And the Eagles' defensive line does get overrated at times. But here, I actually think that the matchup is pretty close. On the interior, Fletcher Cox, he's whatever at this point, but Javon Hargrave, pretty good. Blake Jackson's still really good, and Fletcher Cox is still a relevant player. And the Saints' interior, I mean, Eric Boy is good-ish. He's not incredible. And Andres Pete and Cesar Ruiz are both pretty prone to losing at not infrequent intervals. So you're going to see that they really don't dominate the interior the way they do normally. And on the edges, it's kind of the same thing. Ryan Ramczyk is the best tackle in the NFL. And he's going to do work in this game to a point, but he is the amount of push and real control he's going to give is limited because the Eagles' edge defenders are legitimately good run defenders, especially Brandon Graham. But Vinny Curry's pretty good too, and Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett are fine at the least. And on the other edge, I mean, James Hurst, who's been starting the left tackle for Armstead, I actually kind of like what I've seen from him, but I think he's really going to have issues in the run game here. And given that Taysom Hill is their quarterback, that's what they're relying on. We'll see. Now, the second level is why I think the Saints win is probably still safe. Without DJ Edwards, you were talking about Duke Riley, Alex Singleton, and I'm going to guess Sean Bradley, who has played a couple snaps in like goal line packages previously on the Eagles and then like in garbage time. And that's not good, especially the Duke Riley part, because the Saints do run a good, complicated run scheme that actively misdirects linebackers, and you're going to see Duke Riley get pretty fucked up consistently. But I will mention that Alex Singleton has been okay so far. He's had flashes of being reasonable. Now, he does still have his own issues in terms of down-to-down production for sure, but we'll see. He might not be so bad in this game, but the Duke Riley thing is a big issue as well as whoever plays middle linebacker. So the overall run game, I mean, it's going to be really good. But dominant, it might not be, and dominant might be what they need to blow this game out because the Eagles' D-line is probably too good for the Saints to just toss around, at which point you're just depending on too many like broken tackles and complicated run plays working to create a dominant run game. So I think the run game is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be crazy. Then you get to the pass game, and I mean, yikes. But we'll start with the pass rush. There, that's where I really think the Eagles' defensive line gets overrated, especially at their age. Fletcher Cox not really anything special as a pass rusher at this point. Still better than most of the players in the NFL, but he's nowhere near the top tier. And same with Brandon Graham, although he was never there in the first place. And here, I think you're going to see that shine through a little bit. But Saints interior, also similarly, not all that great in pass pro, especially in under speed. So I think you could see Javon Hargrave, and especially Malik Jackson and Fletcher Cox, get through a little bit. And on the edges, Ryan Ramczyk is significantly better than anyone he's going to be lining up across from. But James Hurst, again, he was a backup for a reason, and there's a chance that Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett and just Vinny Curry, who I think is still legitimately good, get to him. and with some level of frequency. So, I mean, there is potential for pass rush in this game for sure. As far as the receivers go, Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are going to be open the whole game. The Eagles' corners are terrible, including Darius Slay, and Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are going to consistently dominate them. But that was the same thing. That's been the same thing the last 2 weeks when they played the Falcons and the Broncos before that. And you've seen that Taysom Hill, even given that scenario, still ain't that good. So you're going to see that again. Now, it might be a little bit better for him because like the Eagles secondary is worse than the Falcons, and it is worse than the Broncos by a large margin, the second one. So those guys are going to go crazy probably. But yeah, Taysom Hill is going to struggle to get them the ball consistently. So their impact is limited. Jared Cook's fine too, but yeah, so the quarterback versus the defense, I already kind of got into it, but Taysom Hill, yeah, he's bad as a passer. Now, given super simple reads, super easy things, he can execute them at a whatever replacement level, which is going to be the case here. But he doesn't go beyond that. And like I said, in that Falcons game, they only put up 21 points, and Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders were, yeah. So I think the overall pass game is going to be fine because those receivers are going to drive so much play, but it's not going to be dominant because it can't be with him at quarterback. So I have them at an overall point spread of 23-30. So I still think they're going to get pretty high because there's just too much potential for the Eagles linebackers to be bad, and for the receivers to go off, as well as the Saints being very good in the red zone, kind of as a baseline. But I will mention that is absolutely the high end of this. There's a chance that they get held in the teens, certainly, just with Taysom Hill constantly kind of fucking their offense up. And that could be an issue because on the other side of the ball, you talk about the Eagles offense versus the Saints defense. Injury-wise, on the Eagles offense, this is not injury related, but Jalen Hurts making his first start. I'm going to get into him when I talk about the quarterback versus defense. I have quite a few thoughts on him. But to start, yeah, nothing. Well, I was going to say nothing super relevant, but that's not quite true. Jason Peters out for the game, but Nate Herbig is going to come in. And I'll say that Jason Peters so far this year, while he's been playing guard, has actually not been very good. So I don't think the drop off to him to Nate Herbig, who was reasonable at the beginning of the year, is really all that gigantic. And on the Saints side, Malcolm Brown starting defensive tackle out, and Patrick Robinson rotation corner out. So yeah, I mean the offensive line versus defensive line. Look, Saints have a good D line, but they're not great. They look a lot better because their offense or because their defense isn't on the field all that much because their offense just controls the clock, controls the ball so much. Drew Brees or with Taysom Hill, given the teams they've played. And I actually think the Eagles' line, even in their current state of health, are probably pretty even here. Jason Kelce still fantastic at center. Without Malcolm Brown, you're talking about David Onyemata as defensive tackle for the Saints, who's good, but not great. And then it's going to be Shy Tuttle or Malcolm Roach, or maybe they bring someone else up from the practice squad that I'm not familiar with. But regardless who it is, I mean, those guys are fine and would be players on a lot of other teams too, but they're not incredible by any means. And I think Jason Kelce and Isaac Seumalo, I think is a good guard, like a legitimately good guard, are going to do fine. And then on the edges too, as far as run blocking, they're probably going to be fine there as well. Now, Jordan Mailata, not a good run blocker, so don't overrate that side of it. But Matt Pryor, I mean, he's a natural guard who can move people in the run game. And the Saints' edges are good run defenders, for sure. But I don't know that they're going to be dominant here. Cameron Jordan might be as a run defender, especially if he's on Jordan Mailata's side. But the other side, Trey Hendrickson is good, not great. Good's probably even a little too strong. And then their other rotation guys, Carl Granderson is just a super replacement level guy, and Marcus Davenport, not nearly as good as his physical attributes would suggest he should be. So I think they're going to be okay on the offensive line. So that leads me to the second level where Saints linebackers really good. Well, actually, I completely take that back. Actually, just good. They are not really good compared to teams like the 49ers or the Seahawks. Demario Davis, good, not great. Alex Anzalone is whatever. He's fine. And K1 Alexander, he was by far the third best linebacker when he was on the 49ers. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, much better than him. And he plays a ton of snaps here. And while I think they're going to be fine, I don't know if they're going to be great. And you're going to see that Jason Kelsey can actually impact them a little bit, as well as um, the guards moving past the line of scrimmage. Now, it's not a ton. Don't get me wrong; they're still going to be good. I'm just trying to point out that I don't think the Eagles' offense is hopeless in this game by any means. So the pass game. First, pass rush. Again, there on the interior, the Eagles are going to be fine. Onyemata is actually a little bit of a problem, but he kills bad players. The Eagles don't necessarily have bad players at this point. And on the edges, Saints edge defenders, not super pass rushers. Cam Jordan is good, and he's going to be good in this game, but he is not a dominant force. And on the other side, Trey Hendrickson is pretty whatever. He's pretty similar to like Max Crosby on the Raiders, which, I mean, it's better than a lot of teams have as a second pass rusher, but he's not special. And again, Marcus Davenport should be a lot better than he is, but he isn't. So there's not all that much edge rush. Now, Matt Pryor is still a natural guard who's playing tackle who's not that good. So I'm not going to say that there's nothing, but it's not going to be this like overwhelming force. So you talk about the receivers, and there as well. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore really good, and he's going to limit whoever he guards on the Eagles, certainly. On the other side, Janoris Jenkins pretty good. He's also going to limit them. And the slot, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, reasonable, also going to limit them. Where am I going with this? The Eagles tight ends. With Zach Ertz back, the Eagles tight ends are legitimately, like, extremely good. Dallas Goedert, really good. Zach Ertz, still good. I know he has issues, and he's certainly lost a step, but in terms of just, like, sitting in zone, finding space, he's fine. Maybe good was a little strong, but he's going to be fine. And really, those guys are going to do work here because you've seen the Saints suck against tight ends because they ask Malcolm Jenkins to guard them all the time, and Malcolm Jenkins cannot, if he tries to man-on-man cover Dallas Goedert, he can't. He physically can't at this point. So there's chances. There's enough, and also the corners aren't shut down. So there's a chance that Jalen Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey, John Hightower, Travis Fulgham find space on plays. Now, they're not going to be great by any means. None of them are good enough to. But, like, they're not going to be nothing. And so that leads me to the quarterback. So quickly with Jalen Hurts. I originally said in my recap of the previous week that I thought Jalen Hurts sucks. I don't think that after I look back. Now, I think he might. But there are some things that he did that I don't have enough information on to make determinations of. Because in the drives, now given this is like really small sample size, but in the drives that he came in against the Packers, he actually showed off like multiple instances of good anticipation, better than you see from a lot of quarterbacks. Now, again, that was against prevent defense late in the fourth quarter, and that could be he was just deciding he was going to throw there, and he decided early, so it looked like he was anticipating a throw when he was just going to throw it anyway. Hard to know with that little sample size, but I just want to point that out that was pretty encouraging. And he did, and preempting this, I'm not comparing him to this player in terms of skill level, just in terms of this specific thing they do. He observed the pocket really similarly to how Russell Wilson does things, where he will take the snap, look at his first read. If it's open, then he'll throw it. If it's not, or if he thinks it's open, Russell Wilson will throw it. If it's actually open, I think Jalen Hurts may be more if he perceives it to be open, which is an important distinction. But he'll do that, and then he'll, instead of going to the second read, he'll immediately look at the pocket and look where he's going to be moving to like exit the pocket or to find more space. Can be a really good thing, given obviously Russell Wilson can limit his ability to move through progressions and can cause him to run into a bunch of issues, kind of like Deshaun Watson. We'll see which way it goes. I'm certainly going to guess the second way a lot more than the first, but I just want to point out that those are two things that are potentially pretty encouraging, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was actually reasonable in this game. So given that, too much unknown. If I knew he sucked, then I would be all over the Saints, but I don't know he sucks, so I don't think you can really safely bet the Saints. I have them over overall point spread at 13-20, but that's really just a placeholder for a question mark because if Jalen Hurts is good or even okay, then they're like opportunity to put up points in this game to get into the 20s. If he's not, though, it could be in the single digits pretty easily. So with that, Saints W I think is pretty safe, even at the money line value, but not something I feel even really decently about. And the over under and the spread are just absolutely not worth touching with a quarterback you do not know enough information about. And that is Saints Eagles.